This is LSAT PrepTest 150, Section 1, Passage 2, about police interview techniques for eyewitnesses. It's medium difficulty, and the passage reads easy, which is actually the danger here, because it feels like a neutral comparison of three methods, but it's not. The author is working by elimination, and there's only one winner at the end. Now, this is a science passage. The author is evaluating three ways to interview witnesses and pick a side. The main point is instructed eye closure gives you the benefits of the cognitive interview without any of the baggage. Now, the most important paragraph is the last one. That is where the author reveals the move they've been setting up since paragraph 2, but we want to track first how they got there. Paragraph 1 is the setup. Police want more information from eyewitnesses. The cognitive interview exists, that's it. Don't spend any extra mental energy here. The only thing to take away is that the cognitive interview is the baseline, the thing every other method gets compared to. Read it and move on. Paragraph 2 is where the real game starts, and it runs a bait and switch on you. The first half makes the cognitive interview sound solid. It increases the number of details witnesses remember, doesn't add any more wrong answers. So far, so good. Then the author drops the word however, and everything flips. The method is complex, the training takes forever, officers skip the training or get it and still do it wrong. Notice what the author is not saying here. They're not saying the cognitive interview fails. They're saying it's too hard to pull off in practice, and that is a very specific criticism. The method works in theory, but falls apart in the real world. So if a question asks about the author's attitude toward the cognitive interview, don't pick an answer saying it's ineffective. Pick the one that says it is impractical. Those are two different things, and the test is going to offer you both choices. Then paragraph 3 brings in hypnosis, and the author destroys it. And this one doesn't even get the partial credit the cognitive interview got. Accuracy doesn't improve. Sometimes it gets worse. And there's the false confidence problem. Witnesses become more sure of themselves even when they're wrong. That is a detail worth flagging because it's the kind of thing that shows up in a specific question. The author also points out that not everyone responds to hypnosis, which is a practical problem on top of the accuracy problem. So the cognitive interview works, but it's too complicated. Hypnosis is both ineffective and impractical. The author is stacking the failures in order, and each method gets a worse report. That is not an accident here. That's the process of elimination. Then paragraph 4, you want to slow way down. The author opens with a wish list. The ideal method would need no special training. It would work on all witnesses. It would improve memory. It would not increase errors. Now you want to read that list again. Every single item is a problem that showed up in paragraphs 2 or 3. No special training. That is the cognitive interview's weakness. Works on all witnesses. That is hypnosis's weakness. Improves memory without adding errors. That is what hypnosis failed to do. The author built this checklist out of the wreckage of the first two methods. Then eye closure walks in and checks every box. Works for visual and auditory memory. Works for video and live events. No dropout problem. And right at the end, the part you really need to catch, the author says eye closure produces results equivalent to the cognitive interview. Same quality with none of the cost. Now the word equivalent here is doing enormous work. It lets the author say you get the same output with a fraction of the input. Now the key move is the wish list at the top of paragraph 4. The author doesn't just describe what eye closure can do. They first define what a perfect method would look like, using the exact weaknesses of the other two methods as the criteria. Then eye closure meets every single one. That is how the argument lands. Now the author clearly favors eye closure. The big trap is treating this as a neutral overview. Students who treat all three methods equally will miss the main point. The passage has a direction. Paragraphs 2 and 3 don't just describe the cognitive interview and hypnosis, they disqualify them. The whole passage works like a funnel, narrowing down to one answer. And if you miss the funnel, you're going to treat the conclusion as just another data point instead of the destination. Now, before you hit the questions, you want to check yourself on these three things. First, what is the difference between why the author rejects the cognitive interview and why they reject hypnosis? Those are not the same criticism. Then second, why does the author bring up false confidence specifically? What kind of question could that detail anchor? And third, can you explain why the opening of paragraph 4 isn't just a throwaway intro, why it's actually the most strategic moment in the passage?